We're learning Peri Beis Halacha Tes Zayin in Chametz U'Matzah. The Rambam starts off, Amed v'Mamurim. When is this all applicable? Ba'arevo. When you're talking about the bowl that the dough is made in. Otherwise, if you used dough which had fermented to fill cracks, even if they're attached by a string, and the two halves are not connected, then you would have to burn them because they are like kazayas of chometz. Sometimes they'll gather them together. In other words, sometimes when you sweep the house, it could be that two halves will come together, and therefore you have to burn it. Rabbeinu Manoach brings from the Yerushalmi that even if the botzik, even if it's dried up, that even with pulling the string they won't gather together. If at the time when they were not dry, they were strong enough to be pulled apart, they are considered one unit. The Rambam continues, if half of the zayas was in the house, was on one floor, and the other half on the next floor, or one side, one half in the house, and one side outside of the house on the porch. Or one in one room and one in a separate room. Bias at times means rooms. Since these half of a kazayas of fermented dried dough are stuck to the walls, or to the beams, or on the ground, he doesn't have to burn them, he just has to nullify them. The Rae Mishnah cites Psochim 45b. Omar Ula said in Eretz Yisrael there was a question if two halves of Zaysim, that one is in the house and one is upstairs, or exactly as you mentioned, one in the house and one on the porch, or two separate houses with rooms within each other. What's the din? Teku, meaning it was not solved, it was not decided. Since it's not concluded, the Rambam says goes the kula, because b'dikas chometz is the kula, mavatal is enough. The Hilchos Chametz explains that always in every teku, in the Rabbanon he says the kula, but the Hilchos Chametz that cites that Rabbeinu Hananel goes l'chumra. The Ra'im and other Go'inim say in every teku l'chumra, and even in Drabbonans, and therefore, according to them, one would have to burn or remove that dried chometz. The Rambam continues to emphasize that this is only when it's attached to the walls or the beams. Otherwise, you don't have to destroy it, but it's enough to nullify it. But the Rosh explains dvukim. It doesn't mean that it's specifically attached. It just, that's the usual situation where you find dough around the house. But in any way or fashion or form, you'd have to destroy it according to the Rosh. Kesef Mishnah argues that Rambam said a loshen dvukim specifically to say it's attached or glued, because if they're not glued into the wall, even less than a chazayis, you have to burn, destroy, as we learned in Halacha 15, that any part of the dough which is found in the dough bowl, and it's not made to strengthen the parts of it, we'll go to the next page, or to close the hole, never is nullified. You have to destroy it, according to the Rambam. And he says, dough which is found in a hole in the wall, if it's not fit snugly, it's not strong, then he needs to burn it. The Ramach asks a question from the Gemara, Psochim 6b. Small pieces of bread, less than a kazayis, are not choshev. And therefore, how could the Rambam paskin that if it's not attached to the wall, it's found on the ground, it's less than a kazayas, he has to destroy it. He has to destroy it. And he answers that only crumbs of bread are bottled when they're dispersed. But dough, even when they dry, they are valuable because you can use them if you wet them and put them together with other flour mixed with water. They will create yeast and will cause the dough to rise. And also, the din that when they're in a hole, you don't have to destroy them. Is only when they are fixed and just like they are in the vessel, they are attached. That's what the vukim means. The Mishnah adds that the Rambam specifically uses the word vukim, attached, glued, because the Gemara says, oh, what we're referring to is only by a bowl, but in a house it's different. The Gemara means to say that in the same fashion that in a dough bowl you don't have to burn it. That's when you don't have to burn it in the house. But otherwise, if it's not attached, you have to burn it. Rabbeinu Menoach understood that the Rambam writes vukim only in the walls as an explanation. Why aren't you afraid that when he will sweep the floor or clean the walls, that the two halves will gather together? So we see that when you have a hachatzi zayas, which is not attached to the wall, it's loose. According to the Magen Mishnah, the Keser Mishnah, the Ramach, and the Lecha Mishnah, you have to burn it before Pesach. And according to Rabbeinu Menoach, you don't have to burn it. And it could be that Rabbeinu Menoach is of the opinion that it has a din like breadcrumbs that you do not have to burn. La Halacha L'Maisa. The Shulchan Aruch paskins that dough that's in the dough bowl, if there's a kazayas in one place, you have to burn it. Mishnah Berurah explains that even though you nullified it, because you put it there to strengthen the dough bowl, still it's a kazayas, it has its own value, and therefore it doesn't become nullified, and you have to burn it. The Mechaber continues, if there is no kazayas, if it was meant to strengthen the bowl or to close a hole, then you can leave it there because it's bottled. And the Mishnah Berurah says that is the rule, even though you have many little spots with less than a kazayas in the bowl. Since they're not found in one place, each one individually becomes bottled. The Mechaber continues, if they're found in the vessel, but they're not there to strengthen it or to close holes, you have to destroy them before Pesach. And the Mishnah Berurah says that you have to do it only if when you take them all together and the vessel is acts as something that brings them together, there is a kazayas. But if you don't have a kazayas, you're not obligated to burn it, even when they're not there to strengthen the bowl. The Mishnah Berurah continues that there are other poskim that feel that even less than a kazayas, you have to destroy it only when it's still slightly edible. But if it's dirty, less than a kazayas, you do not have to destroy it. Mechaber continues in Sif Ches, if there were two halves of zaysim in two different places, and a thread of dough connects them, we turn the page, we see all that if you grab the thread, you would be chayav to burn it. Then, if it comes out with it, if the thread is strong enough to hold it, the Mishnah Berurah again explains that the thread is thick enough, and that it acts as a connector between them, and therefore we look at it as one kazayas, and this is the din. Even if it's meant to strengthen, it doesn't become bottled to the kli. That's why you have to burn it. Mechaber continues, if it's impossible to take the two chatzei zaysim with that thread of dough connecting them, you do not have to destroy it. Mishnah Berurah says, when we're talking here where you put it in to strengthen the pot, but otherwise, the fact that they're in the vessel causes them to be connected anyway. The Mechaber concludes, like the Bostoner Rambam, that's only by a door bowl. But in a house, even if you take it with a string, they will not come out. You still have to get rid of it because at times they will gather together from sweeping the house or cleaning the walls, and you'll have a kezayis in one place. Therefore, you have to just get rid of it before Pesach. Now, what happens if there was a half in one house and a half in the loft, a half in the house and a half in the porch, a half in the house, a half in another room? Since these are attached to the walls, or to the beams, or to the floor, you do not have to remove them, but you mavatal, and that's enough. Mishnah Berurah explains that dvukim, that they are stuck to those holes where the dough was found there, and they're meant to straighten out, to smooth the walls. That's what they use to smooth the walls. Today we have special glues that we use to caulk the walls, and therefore it's considered to strengthen the walls, and you do not have to get rid of it. Only this is all predicated on the fact that there's no kezayis in one place. There are those who say if they're in the walls, even if they're not attached, since they're less than a kezayis, you do not have to remove them. That's according to the Rosh. But the Rambam says you have to be believe it because the Gemara asked the question and they have a suffix, and it's a suffix Rabbanon, and therefore he says he's not chayav to be boidik, but he does have to be mevatel. Mi'at Hashem, the next shiur will be on Halacha Yud Zayin.